in the past, when I had such an emotional reaction to something, I would take a moment and compose myself. But I just don't care anymore. Because if I'm going to be real, I'm going to actually stand in my emotion and speak. I'm not going to wait for it to pass. Night and the spirit of light calling Mameya. Mameya means listen. And a voice with the fear of a child answers, Mameya, listen. The universe says to us, listen. And we are so caught off guard by this that we say, listen, to ourselves. That's how this song starts. And then, as though this majestic energy comes along and just says, wait. Sort of like, wait for it. Wait. There's no mountain too great. So before it tells us anything, it tells us, you are bigger than anything that's going on in your life. So just drop that for a moment, would you? God's a little colloquial these days. Just drop all of your crap. Drop all of your stuff. All God's chillin', as Dr. Walker used to say, got their stuff. And if we just drop it, if we just wait a minute, and Mameya, listen, hear the words, and have faith. Faith, he goes on to sing and say. And then there's this line where it says, hey! Because it's a big girl that says this. It says, hey, listen. That's all that happens at the beginning of this song. The universe is saying to us, hey, listen up. Put down your stuff. Put down your challenges. Put down your differences with one another. Put down all the reasons why you should feel this way. Put it all down. And I know you all have great reasons for why you feel the way you feel about whoever you feel it about, for why you feel the way you feel about whatever's going on in your life, for why you feel the way you feel about everything that's happened up to this point. And yet the universe is saying to you, hey! Laugh a little. Relax. Give it up. Put it down. And listen. Because he's got something to say. And I'm going to use the word he, while Kevin changed it to they, because you know what? I don't want to have to change words anymore. He lives in you. He is neither male nor female. He is that which is bigger than all of those words. He lives in you. So the universe is spending all this time trying to get our attention. And let me tell you something. When the universe can't get your attention, it gets your attention. It may burn your house down and make you fly to your mother to figure it out. It will get your attention. I loved what Edwene Gaines says when she talks about tithing. She says, so don't tithe, don't give. The universe will find a way to get that money out of you. I believe her. I totally believe her. So the universe says, hey, listen up. Listen. He lives in you. He lives in me. He watches over everything we see. So there's no place where God is not. There's no place in my life where something can happen and it's devoid of God. There's just no place. There's no room for that. God is not having it. That we think that there's some place where God isn't. I heard so many people say this week, and I heard a quote this week, God must be missing from the Republican National Convention. And I will tell you what I said to that person after I laughed. I said, no, not at all. God was right on that stage with Clint Eastwood. God was right in that empty chair. God was in every part of that convention. He watches over everything we do and see. Into the water, into the truth, into your reflection, He lives in you. Into your reflection, He lives in you. So again, the universe is constantly saying to us, hey, I live in you. Stop presenting me this way. Don't think like that. I don't think like that, except when you think like that. And then I'm back here going, hey, do you really want to think that? But we have to listen to be able to hear those voices. That voice, that one singular voice. You know, when I saw The Lion King, I was so proud of Kevin when he got cast in The Lion King. And I got to go to Minneapolis and see the very first performance of The Lion King. The very first time all of Julie Taymor's incredible work was seen by the public. And although I could use the term once in a lifetime, I have come to understand that once in a lifetime is every single moment. Once in a lifetime. But sitting there in Minneapolis and not knowing what to expect, because the world didn't know what to expect yet, and the lights go down and you hear those drums, and then you hear that Ingwanyama, Ingwanyama, and you're like, wow, cool. And then all of a sudden, little by little, things happen, and I had a phenomenal house seat, and I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, there is an elephant standing next to me. But I'm noticing it's an elephant that's really made of about 10 people, maybe 12. I don't know how many people it took to get that elephant down that aisle. But, you know, and then after I see the elephant, I notice the giraffes on the other side. And then I see these birds flying overhead, and the music is going, and I'm like, oh my God, has there ever been a night like this ever in the theater? Not in my lifetime. Then, because since then I've seen War Horse. Since then I've seen so many other things. Since then I've been in a room that doesn't have any spectacle and felt just as big. So, He lives in you. He lives in you. Creativity like that came through Julie Taymor in The Lion King, creativity like that is someone who is actually listening to God, and God is just flowing through the fingertips. And here's the deal. Just because it was Julie Taymor and The Lion King doesn't mean it's also not doing the exact same thing through you. The difference is many of us haven't really listened to the hey, haven't really listened to the wait, haven't really listened to the have faith, trust, know that you are on your perfect journey as well. We get caught up looking at something like that and feeling small. We get caught up looking at people's accomplishments and achievements and thinking, why can't I do that? And the minute we go there, we've stopped listening to the truth that He lives in you. So I picked up the Science of Mind textbook this week. I have not been reading it this year because I've wanted to read other things. And I thought, oh, let me just check the Science of Mind textbook just to see where we are in the readings. But instead, I found myself reading the foreword. And it was written by Jean Houston, brilliant philosopher of human potential. Many people know her as an astrologist. But she's many, many, many other things. And she wrote the foreword to Science of Mind. And here's what she wrote. This book contains the distilled wisdom of many eras, many cultures, and one great soul. To read it is to be charged in the alembic of change, to enter into partnership with God, to relearn the laws of co-creation. Now, that was exciting for me to read, to remind myself what this is, what this teaching is. But I got caught up on the alembic of change because I didn't know what alembic meant. And I don't know about you, but I don't just read a sentence and if I don't know the word, I just continue. I used to when I was in school, thus my not graduating. But the alembic of change means the distillery of change, meaning that there is a compartment, a tube, it's a medical term. There is this space where you go into this space and everything works with you to turn you into, to transform you through change into that which it is meant to be. If you put certain things in a tube, they will come together and form what it is meant to be. The alembic of change. You and I right now are in the alembic of change. We are sitting right here. We are in the process of allowing all of this truth, all of these facts, all of this philosophy to come through our minds, to come together to make what we have always been meant to be. And that is this perfect expression of God. In every area of our lives, not just in one area, but in every area of our lives. The alembic of change. She goes on to write this. She says, this book, The Science of Mind, is the hidden masterpiece which must be discovered only when one is ready to enter upon a larger life. How many people here today are ready to live a larger life? Yes, I am. And for those of you who are sitting here thinking, I live a large life, because if you think you're living a large life, then you're not expansive enough to know that there's always more. A larger life means you are constantly allowing God to move through you and expand you, but that means we go back to what I said in the beginning. You are willing to let God say, wait a minute, and drop everything else. Now listen to what I can actually do if you let me live in you, if you let me live as you. The title of my talk today is The Larger Life. Larger, however, does not always mean bigger. I've had bigger, it wasn't always larger. I'm just going to trust your minds knew where to go with that. The larger life indicates a larger understanding. A larger understanding. He lives in you. He lives in me. He watches over everything we see. Into the water, into the truth, in your reflection. In your reflection. He lives in you. A larger understanding. When we think of a large life, sometimes I think we think of bigger houses. I think we think of more expensive cars. I think we think of more notoriety. I think we think of having more friends, having more money. That to us means larger life. But we don't have it correct. More does not always necessarily mean larger. I've had more and known less. And I have had less and known more. And I don't believe that we are here to prove one or the other. I don't think we have to play small to know more. I don't think we have to become impoverished to understand the blessings of divinity. I also don't think we have to become obscenely wealthy before we will be able to say we're successful. I believe that the word larger today, what I'm looking for is an understanding of larger that takes me to a place where I actually allow something bigger than me to fill me up. And therefore drive me and direct me to what larger means in my life. I don't know what it could mean. I know that when I went to New York as a young man, and all I wanted to do was be on Broadway. I just wanted to star on Broadway. I didn't want to be on Broadway. I wanted to star on Broadway. I was very clear. I wanted to star on Broadway. But first I got to be on Broadway in a show called Very Good Eddie. And I wasn't that happy. I was in the chorus. I know I say I never was, but I was. It was very brief. And then within a couple of years, I got to have a starring role in a Broadway show. And I can only tell you, the disillusionment of starring in a Broadway show and not being happy was monumental. That was really depressing. To get something that you thought was the larger thing and not be happy with it? How many people have ever had that happen? Yeah, and you're like, oh my God, that ain't it, kid. That ain't it, kid. Right? So it's not about that. It's not about small and big. It's about larger. And that's what I'm really here to talk to you guys about today. The larger life. The larger life, in fact, in truth, has nothing to do with what's going on out here. What I have out here is just the organic, natural progression of what's going on in here. It's that simple. Whatever's going on out here in my life mirrors whatever's going on in here. Now, for some of us, that's good news. For some of us, that's less good news. And for a lot of us, we're starting to understand that it's not good or bad news. It's just truth that we can start using. So if this designates what this is, then where's my attention need to go? On this. And yet, we have also become a science and a teaching and a religion and a philosophy who some people can point to and say, you know what? It seems like that group of people are always trying to get. And they get by using their mind to have a mental equivalent of what they want. I just heard that for the first time. Want. That kind of sound. And that's not necessarily what this teaching is about. Yes, that's true. I can't deny it. I create a mental equivalent and I get what I want. I get what I'm equal to. But what I'm here to talk about today and what I have been on this journey towards my whole life is understanding that the larger life is a life that is led from the inside out, not the outside in. It is not led by what I think I need in this world. It is not led by what I need to accomplish in this world. It is led by listening. Wait, listen. It is led by that thing in me that's ready to live in me, to live as me. I think we are so busy telling the universe what we want that we miss what the universe had in mind. Now, I want you to listen for a second. We miss what the universe has in mind. Because the universe has in mind everything possible for your greatest good. It's in your mind right now. Because there's only one mind, and it's the mind of God. So maybe if we would just be less interested in telling the universe what we want, we'd have more time to listen to what the universe has in mind for us. He lives in you. Listen. Mameya. Listen. Instead of telling God what we want our world to look like, what if we took the time to listen, to see what God wants our world to look like? Mameya. That would be living the larger life. Therefore, the larger life is allowing that which is already in me, to live as me, to live through me. If we listen very closely, I believe that we can hear a voice inside of ourselves that is crying out, "Let me live." But we have to be willing to listen to it. And you know what? That voice that says, "Let me live," sometimes shows up as discouragement. Sometimes this shows up as disappointment. Sometimes shows up as sadness or depression. That voice sometimes shows up as the very thing we don't want to experience. And so what do? We run away from that feeling, that emotion, which I talked about last Sunday, and we miss the voice. We miss, as Ellen was saying, we miss the blessing. We miss the very thing that's there to tell us. Let me live, it says. And that "let me live" shows up as an unsettled relationship or financial distraction. That's a good name for it, isn't it? Financial distraction. Or a block in creativity. Whatever. But today we could actually make a nice step forward by saying to ourselves, when that happens, I need to listen to that within me that is saying, "Let me live." And not only that, I live in you. I think very often we spend more time with the symptoms of our lives than with the very essence of our lives. I think very often, very much like medicine does, we try to fix the symptom as opposed to getting to the cause. And yet, today, I'm actually going to say, I'd like to say, screw the symptom, screw the cause. Because I don't think I care anymore about the symptom or the cause, because there's something back of all of it. And that's why I started today with saying, put it all down. All of it. And I'm not saying I don't think these journeys into finding out how we think and why we think and what we think aren't important. I'm about to enter into 16 weeks of mental muscle. I know how important it is. But what I also understand is if we're going to do anything about what we find out, we need to start to understand that it's what's behind it all that matters. Wait. Listen. Mameya. He lives in you. He lives in me. He watches over everything we see. Into the water, into the truth, in your reflection, He lives in you. Now, as you know, this universe is not an accident, it's a unity. So this week, as I put together my talk, and I called it The Larger Life, and I started thinking about it, I decided to see if Ernest Holmes ever said anything about the larger life. Who knew? He wrote a book called The Larger Life. I didn't know that. Did you know that, Doug? No, I didn't know that. So here's this book called The Larger Life. And I thought, oh, it's probably a little pamphlet. Let me just read it and see if I can get anything from it that I could use in my talk. It's a very long book. And so I didn't read it all, of course, yet. I will. But I pulled out some of his quotes, and I'd like to read them for you and pretty much end our day here, end my talk here with Ernest Holmes. He says, daily we must train our thought to see only that which we wish to experience. And since we are growing into what we are mentally dwelling upon, we should put all small and insignificant thoughts and ideas out of our thinking and see things in a larger way. So what he says to us is, how often do you get preoccupied on these small little things that basically just take away a lot of your energy? How much mental leakage is there in your life where you are leaking out your energy thinking about all these things that frankly a month from now you won't even remember happened? And he's saying, how much time do you spend thinking about the larger life? He says, we must cultivate the habit of an enlarged mental horizon, daily seeing farther and farther and farther ahead, and so experiencing larger and greater things that our daily life is ultimately erupting with good. I want you to think about that feeling. Your life erupting with good. Not just, well, I'm good, but your life erupting with good. Just say that with me, erupting with good. Erupting. Can you feel that? It's erupting with good. He goes on to say, if we never let, I love this, if we never let small thoughts come into our mind, we will soon find that a larger and greater experience has come into our life. If we never, and listen to that word, if we never let small thoughts come into our mind, we will soon find that a larger and greater experience has come into our life. So, my dear friends, you and I, all of us here this morning, we are right here in this instant in the alembic of change. We are being called to live the larger life. We are being asked to step aside our petty grievances, to step aside anything in our minds or hearts that is holding us hostage. Fear, doubt, worry, hatred, uncertainty. Whatever it is, we are being called to allow all of that stuff to just fall away and to wait and to listen. Mameya. Mameya. Listen. To one truth. He lives in you, as you, through you. Doug, if you could come back up, and if everyone could come back up, please. So as I end this, as I finish this, I've done this a few times. You heard the song. And the song was a beautiful song from Lion King, sung by a brilliant singer. And they're going to sing it again. And now I would like you to listen to this song. At the end of this understanding. And see where this song takes you. But more importantly, allow it to take you. Allow these words. When you hear mamea, when you hear wait, do that. Just let everything go, drop everything, and see where it takes you this time. Doug.
Light and the spirit of life asking Mamela, and the voice with the fear of a child calling, oh, Mamela. Wait, there's no mountain too great. Hear these words and have faith. Oh, have faith. He lives in you. He lives in me. He's watching over everything we see, in every creature, in every star, in your reflection. He lives in you. They live in you. They live in me. They're watching over everything we see, in every creature, in every star. They live in you. They live in you.
Now, if you think that there will ever be a place where you can ever go, if there will ever be a situation you can ever be in, if there will ever be a moment in your life where you will be separate from God, then you are mistaken. What we have learned here today, what we know here today, is that not only does the Spirit live in us, but it is asking us to listen. It is asking us to let it live through each and every one of us. I believe that we are here today to hear this, to know this, and to do this. Namaste.